Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. So usually we do the what do we usually do? The guilty pleasure.
We usually have our annual guilty pleasure when we kind of take leave of the show. We kind of pre-record our guilty pleasures. This is kind of a behind the scenes conversation, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah, because people know we take breaks. It would be ridiculous for us to do a show every week. I mean, we do enough shows, but to do it every week, we would be maroons. People need a break, right? I mean, the world knows people need a break.
Yes, they do. They definitely do.
Anyway, so we do this thing. We take a break because we're not maroons. And we take a break and we do our little vacations. And it usually coincides with my vacation, not yours. I just noticed that after 5 years. Anyhow, this year we're doing something different. We're not doing guilty pleasures. We're doing something different. What are we doing, Andy? Do you have the wherewithal or the wits to describe what we're doing this year?
Well, it's not that we have run out of guilty pleasures. I have a feeling we could make that go on forever.
Oh, believe me. And as soon as we decided not to do it, man, they just started coming out of the woodwork for me.
Yes, they did. But no, we decided that we would spice things up a little bit and actually challenge each other to pick a movie. And so we have what we are calling the TNR Vacation Challenge. And so I'm going to pick...
That's the best we could do.
That's the best name that we could come up with. It's pretty terrible. But so I'm going to throw Pete a kind of a genre or a type of film that he needs to pick, and he's going to do the same for me.
That's what we're going to do. Oh my goodness, did I have fun researching this. Do you know what happened? Do you know what I started with? I started with unusual...
I'm glad you did research.
I did. Oh, man, I was a basket case. I did. I started looking for strange film genres. Like, I started with just the genre, and that's where I actually ended up with, but not as strange as some of the ones that I found. And I wanted to share with you some that I found to see if you are, in fact, a connoisseur of some of these films. Can we start with a quiz?
Hit me up.
All right. So the first, I'm going to give you a genre that is in this category of odd film genre, and your challenge is to A, see if you can describe the genre, and B, give me at least one film that is named as one of the top films in the genre. Okay?
Wow.
Do you understand the rules?
I understand the rules, yeah.
All right, here we go.
I don't know how I'll do, but I'll give it a try.
I assure you, I will be surprised if you do well. So the bar is set very low for you. So really, the world's your oyster.
I am ready.
The first genre, Andy, that I would like you to define is the psycho biddy film. Can you tell me what a psycho biddy film is?
A psycho biddy would be, well, using the pejorative biddy and one who is psycho, I imagine it is a genre about a crazy girlfriend or crazy ex-girlfriend or crazy female in one's life.
Okay, we could get even more specific with that. That would be a gothic set granny run amok, a gray-haired melodrama, a bitter biddy rivalry, haunting hagsploitation, and notable films, Andy, in this gothic grannies run amok. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? Die, Die, My Darling? Whoever Saw Auntie Roo? Or Whatever Happened to Aunt Alice?
Wow.
This was started from Robert Aldrich's 1962 film, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, starring Bette Davis and Joan Crawford as the forgotten sisters isolated from the rest of the world. In a crumbling mansion, they defined the genre of the psycho biddy film. Are you ready for the second genre?
I sure am. This is fun.
The meat pie western. This one was like made for you.
Was it?
Yes.
The meat pie western?
Yes.
Well, it sounds like I'm not quite sure, a meat pie western. It would be just a western that is overly bloody and violent?
Oh, no, Andy, but I'm going to give you a couple of films and see if you can pick it up. Top films in this category, and maybe it'll help to note that it's a play on the spaghetti western, which we know so well on this show. Does that help you at all?
The spaghetti western fits in this?
Well, the spaghetti western is an Italian-made western. The meat pie western might be a plank
British western?
No, I'm going to tell you.
Of shepherd's pie.
It's the shepherd's pie western.
I guess it'd be an Aussie western, maybe?
Yes, Andy, ding.
Oh.
The Kangaroo Kid, The Man from Snowy River, Quigley Down Under. These all fit in the category of meat pie western. Well done.
Would never, yeah, that's great.
Here's the next one. Bruceploitation.
Bruceploitation.
Mm-hmm. Now, you might think this was the Aussie one, but in fact, you'd be wrong.
I was going to say it felt like it felt like that. But then I'm going like, well, maybe it's not Bruce Willis.
No, not Bruce Willis. Movies that exploit Bruce Willis.
Well, I mean, you could almost say that Nicolas Cage has created like a cage exploitation.
Cage exploitation. No, that's a fair parallel. This, in fact, is any film starring a Bruce Lee lookalike specifically made after Bruce Lee's death. And they starred actors like Bruce Lee L.I., Bruce Lee L.E., or Dragon Lee, and they were ripoffs. All of them are ripoffs of Bruce Lee's classic films like Enter the Dragon, with titles like Re-Enter the Dragon, or Enter Two Dragons, or Enter Another Dragon. And they were all designed to get people to think they were watching a Bruce Lee film. This was another one that I thought you would like, nudist camp films. These were sexploitation films from the 1930s through the early 1960s that featured nude women with a few men that the camera largely ignored, many pretending to have educational slant. So there you go. We have, this was one of my favorite ones. And this is another, back to the quiz. We're back in character. Are you ready? Here we go. Sea life sport movies.
Sea life sport movies?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sea life movies, I would think, would be like Free Willy or things with animals in the sea.
Yeah, well, you would think
that. Sea life sport, I mean, would that involve like our sport, aka like fishing of them? Or would that involve like racing while you're riding on the back of a dolphin?
You're getting closer, and yet still worlds away. These would be absurdist films starring massive mutant sea creatures that engage specifically in sports. Such notable titles as The Calamari Wrestler, Crab Goalkeeper, and Crust. This comes largely out of Japan. These you think about Godzilla. It's like a spin-off of these giant monster films, but the monsters are actually vastly more athletic. And the funniest ones, if you look up Crab Goalkeeper, you'll totally get it. It is a giant crab in a goal on a field, and it's brilliant.
Wow!
It makes me want to see all of them. Let's see, Crust.
Does it really, or does it? I would go so far as to watch clips from them. I think that's probably as much as I would do.
I almost you thank your lucky stars. I almost gave this to you as your challenge. So there's that. You could have done that, but this was the last one, and I think you're going to have an easy time with this one. Andy, could you please tell me what a mockbuster is?
A mockbuster? Oh, really? Would be a fake blockbuster or a spoof of blockbusters.
Yes.
like another, what are they, like another superhero movie or all the scary movie series or
right.
Or
like, for example, if I gave you one of the notable films Transmorphers, you would know that would be
that'd be the Transformers. Oh, so okay, now is that you're talking about like the studio that does those rip-off movies?
Right, at like snakes on a train, snakes on a plane.
Right, not necessarily that whole franchise that was just the spoof silly films.
No. These are serious movies, or movies that are meant to be taken seriously to leverage the cinema gestalt of the time to confuse people. Right.
Right. What's the studio that releases Transmorphers?
Asylum.
That's what it is. Asylum is the company that releases all these rip-off films.
Yes.
That are designed purposefully to confuse people when they're buying them. Right.
Yes.
Right. They have a ton of them.
They do. They've got hundreds, literally hundreds of them through, since the early 90s. They've been doing this. But that's they have defined a genre. The mockbuster. There you go. And I will tell you, you are lucky. I'm not picking any of these genres for my film selection.
Okay.
Shall we do it? Do you want to? I've talked for too long. You want to go first?
Sure. I was really worried that you were going to actually make me pick one of these.
No, sir.
Oh man, that would have really been awkward. Although if it was mockbuster, I could have always done Sharknado. So
yeah, or Sharknado 2 or 3 or 4.
Okay, so I don't have anything funny to talk about like you do. I didn't do nearly the research you did trying to find something clever to pick. Mine was I was torn between two choices. The first choice, which I'm not going to give you, but I'll at least say it, is that you often talk about how much you don't like horror films.
I do.
And although we have talked about some horror films, and then every now and then you surprise me by saying, "Oh yeah, I watched that movie like last week." You were talking about, was it The Forest or whatever? Like, yeah.
Well, because of what's her name with the what's the show I like so much? Game of Thrones. Yeah, she was in Natalie Dormer.
What are you doing? Well, yeah, but it's still a horror movie. I'm like, what are you doing watching that? It's a horror movie. You always talk about how much you don't like watching horror movies.
A man's got to have priorities, Andy.
So I was going to make you pick your favorite horror movie that we haven't talked about.
Okay. Well,
but instead,
you're not going to do that for me.
No, I'm not. Instead, I thought this would be a little more fun because I don't think that we've talked about any film with this particular technique used in it, and unless I'm wrong. But I am going to have you pick your favorite film featuring stop motion animation.
Oh, that's a great selection.
Now, it could be the whole film done in stop motion, like, Corpse Bride or Nightmare Before Christmas or Fantastic Mr. Fox, or it can be one that just features it, like any of the Ray Harryhausen films, something like that. You've got a wide variety of films to choose from, and that is what I'm having you pick.
That's fantastic, Andy. What a good choice. I think I already have films in mind. This is great.
Excellent.
Okay. So I also, besides the whole litany of other categories that I really enjoyed researching, I also had two options. The first one was to try to figure out a way, and I'll tell you I did not pick this one, but to try to figure out a way to come up with a genre that would so closely define Hudson Hawk that you would have no choice but to choose it.
I was wondering if you were going to do something like such a narrow definition that there was just one film. Oh.
I did not do that, Andy. I did not. I also, it's funny. I came back to horror too, but I'm not a huge fan of horror like you are, and so I decided to spin on it just a little bit. So what I am asking you to do this year, Andy, is to come up with your very favorite end of the world, apocalyptic, end of days, dystopic comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And now, before you feel like you're totally stumped, there are a lot of films that I feel like would be categorized here. Like, for example, we've already talked about Shaun of the Dead. That would be a perfect sort of end of days comedy that we've already talked about, so you can't choose it.
Sure.
So that's what I'm looking for, and you can't choose Ghostbusters.
Why not? Okay.
There you go. Okay, so the challenge is out. We've got a favorite film featuring stop motion animation and favorite end of days comedy.
That sounds like a fun pair.
I think so too.
These are going to fall near the end of June, beginning of July. So that's when we will actually have this challenge. I think we're going to be announcing it at the end of our Fritz Lang series.
Yeah, so that's coming up in like a month or something, right? Somewhere like that.
Yeah, as soon as we finish Shane Black, then we'll jump into Fritz Lang. Then we'll have a listener's choice, and then we'll do our vacation challenge.
Perfect. I think with that, Andy, we should tell the people where we're from.
Where are we from?
This is The Next Reel on rashpixel.fm, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and that there is Andy Nelson.
Hello.
And we spoil movies. Tonight on the show, the second in our series on the work of writer-director Shane Black with Tony Scott's 1991 action comedy, The Last Boy Scout. Before we get into that, you should learn more about us at thenextreel.com. Subscribe to the show anywhere the finest podcasts are served, even YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel. And if you're the kind of person that looks for creative ways to break through a defensive line, then you're just the sort who's ready to draw against The Next Reel's Instagram hashtag Pony Prize, hashtag Guess the Movie Challenge.
And with that, let's check in with Game Master Steven Smart, who is busy setting up an elaborate underground gambling franchise revolving around the weekly Instagram game.
Hey guys, this week we leapt back to the 80s for a late Samuel Fuller effort, White Dog from 1982, starring Christy McNichol and Paul Winfield. At Cotton Science nailed it on Image 3, so congrats at Cotton Science, you are entered once again into the 2016 Pony Prize hat. As always, a new challenge starts on Monday, so thanks guys, and see you later.
We do have a plot spot, and it almost made me feel bad about Lethal Weapon, almost.
Almost, yeah. Ben said, what I love about Lethal Weapon is the characters. Rig and Murtaugh are a great buddy cop duo. The suicidal crazy cop teamed up with the veteran who's ready to retire makes for a pair that's actually might make sense working together. Also, the General and Joshua make for a great pair of over-the-top villains. I think I did a better job than you guys did at turning off my logical brain and just enjoying the wackiness. Yes, this isn't even close to real police work, but it's the movies. The final fight was a bit too much, though, for even me. Still, I definitely enjoy action films a lot, and this is a classic. Your rank 107, my rank 54. Pretty high.
Yeah, he ranked it high. I think he's probably right, and just, once again, the nature of us doing this show probably caused us to overthink it a little bit, don't you think?
Nope. I think it's right where it belongs.
I'm not saying I'd change any of my votes. I'm just saying maybe we were a little hard. Oh, never mind. Andy, let's do trailers.
You know, I'm pretty excited about this. I'm going to talk about the I guess they're labeling it a teaser for Doctor Strange, even though it is kind of a full-length trailer. But I guess considering how many trailers they crank out for each movie these days, it's a 2-minute teaser, I guess, is maybe the norm for at least these types of movies. Doctor Strange is he was a comic book character that I never really read when I was younger because he always seemed so weird and creepy. And I just think as a kid, it was just not the sort of easy superhero to click with. So I never knew anything about Doctor Strange other than he just looked weird. Cut to now, when I know it's going to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'm generally excited about most of them. I think it's probably fair to say all of them, at least to see what they do with them. And I didn't know anything about this character, but watching this teaser, it was really interesting. It's this character who apparently lives in a world where there's multiple realities, and he kind of learns to kind of move between them. So there's this level of mysticism and kind of controlling these different levels of reality. And I gotta say, Benedict Cumberbatch looks just fantastic as the as Doctor Strange, like a really interesting character. I can't wait to see what he brings to the table. But not just him. I mean, it is just a fantastic cast from top to bottom. Aside from Cumberbatch, you have Rachel McAdams, Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One, Mads Mikkelsen. You've got Chewie Ejiofor in there, Michael Stuhlbarg, Benedict Wong. It's a great cast of people. And I'm really excited to see kind of what this story is all about. I think it's going to be very refreshing to see a superhero story that has this type of take on the world that is going to give us something a little bit different than what we get out of so many of the superhero films.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, weirdly, I am less enthusiastic about this than you are. And that feels, I'm really uncomfortable with that. Because everything you just said is right. In fact, this is the role Tilda Swinton was born to play, an ageless bald thing. She looks great as the teacher. I love watching Benedict Cumberbatch get his spirit knocked out of this physical plane. Trailer showcases a lot of the cool sort of mystical effects of the film. I think it looks generally really great. You're right. It's got a great cast. This is just part of it's part of the comic book universe that I did not get into. And so the only commentary I have on the production of the film is Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't look old enough to my eye. Like, it always felt like Doctor Strange was wizened and older, and it feels like I look at the promotional pics of Cumberbatch with the white streak, the iconic Doctor Strange streak in his hair, and it just looks painted there and not very natural. And so that's the only thing. I mean, it just feels like something I don't know, and so I guess I reserve judgment, and we'll see what happens. But it certainly looks beautiful, and I'm very excited about the next phase of the Marvel Universe. I read another piece today about the weirder turns that are going to be taking in the cinematic universe after Civil War. leading up to Inhumans. And so, I'm excited to see what comes of it. I think this is part of that transformation. I think it should be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think, I don't know, I just really intrigued by what they are going to do here. Scott Derrickson is directing it, and, he's behind such films as Sinister, which I didn't see, but that is one that definitely piqued my curiosity. The Day the Earth Stood Still, the remake, which wasn't that great. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. He's a guy who I think has his hand in kind of the horror world right now and making some really interesting things. So I think that tapping into him might be a good idea for this one. I'm curious to see what he brings to the table.
He wrote Devil's Knot. Did you like that? Do you remember?
I didn't see that one. Nope.
No, it was,
I don't think I even heard of that one.
It was Colin Firth and Reese Witherspoon. It was good. It was good.
Well, another Adam McGoyan film, huh?
I feel like this is another one of those examples of a relatively unknown director that is coming in to do this one, to do a really big Marvel movie. It should be interesting to see this.
This one opens November 4th, and I believe that we have it on our film board slate, so we'll be talking about this one.
My movie, Andy, is Birth of a Nation, The Birth of a Nation, written by Nate Parker, directed by Nate Parker, and starring Coleman Domingo, Armie Hammer. So I'm actually very excited about this film. Set against the antebellum South, The Birth of a Nation follows Nat Turner, a literate slave and preacher whose financially strained owner, Samuel Turner, accepts an offer to use Nat's preaching to subdue unruly slaves. I picked this. I don't know much about the film. I know that I really like Coleman Domingo a lot. I like just about everything that he has done that I have seen him in. Of course, he was in Selma. The Butler, Lee Daniels, The Butler. So he's been in a lot of stuff. We actually we saw him pass by as Lawson Bowman in 42. So we've talked about a film at least that he was in. Of course, he was in Lincoln as well as Private Harold Green. So he's been in a lot of stuff. I really like this guy. I think he's an incredibly talented actor, and so I'm excited to see him, his work in this film. Nate Parker, know him more as an actor than as a director. This is his first big feature. It looks like he did some shorts, wrote and directed some shorts, but this is his first big one. And but we've seen him in things like Red Tails. Did you ever see Red Tails?
I did not.
That was the first war movie that my daughter saw the trailer for and was like, I need to see that movie. I need to see what that's all about. And just loved it. I mean, just absolutely loved it. He played one of the pilots, I think. Anyhow, so this looks like a really powerful film, but the reason I picked it was because of that song. I think in terms of the visuals of this trailer as its own standalone work of art and this incredible rendition of the, I think originally it was a Billie Holiday tune. This is, of course, Strange Fruit, as performed by Nina Simone, who is one of my all-time favorites. I think pairing that song with this trailer is just stunning. Did it not hit you right where it counts?
No, she's one of my favorites, and it was a perfect way to start this trailer and get us into this world. It's a really exciting film, and I'm definitely looking forward to this one. This is quite the big stir at Sundance. It won the jury prize, and this is where Fox Searchlight bought the rights to it in a $17.5 million deal, which was the largest deal at Sundance up to this point. So a huge deal to get this. And ever since I knew that happened, I've been excited to see this one. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how it happens. And I also just love the title, The Birth of a Nation, which I think in there's a little hint at the D.W. Griffith film that came out nearly 100 years ago, with the same name that had an awfully different feel.
Absolutely, it did, and so, I think this looks like a really interesting one. The early critics who are writing about it so far, I mean, it is just slamming positive just about everywhere. So I think it's going to be a fun one to watch. Looks like it hits in the USA October 7th, 2016, and then it releases other major countries around the world, January 2017. So,
looking forward to it.
Because Andy, friends can't be perfect. I wish the water wasn't wet. I wish the sky wasn't blue, and I wish that I didn't still love my wife. Life sucks.
This ain't no game, Flash. Joe Hallenbeck's a private detective who's run out of luck.
If you touch me again, I'll kill you.
2 for 2.
Told you.
Jimmy Dix
I like Prince.
is an ex-quarterback who was thrown out of football.
Another tragic tale of wasted youth. You're nobody. Shh. Don't tell anyone.
They were trying to clean up their acts
You vacuum, I'll dust.
when they got dragged into the dirty world of sports corruption.
So you're gonna bribe some senators to legalize gambling? Legalize sports gambling.
Now,
Son, we're going to a ball game.
they've got one shot
What am I gonna do? Point at the bad guys and shoot!
to get the goods on the bad guys.
Just once, I would like to hear you scream.
Play some rap music. Not about these, man. Take your best shot.
1991, Andy, the last Boy Scout, down-and-out cynical detective, teams up with a down-and-out ex-quarterback. Everybody's down and out in this movie. Ex-quarterback to try and solve a murder case involving a pro football team and a politician. Film stars Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans as the down-and-out couple, as the down-and-out love interests of one another. Directed by Tony Scott, and of course written by our series subject, Shane Black.
Yes.
How'd this hit you, Andy?
I had kind of a rough time with this one. It's not that great of a movie. There's some over the top action stuff going on in here. On the whole, I don't know. I really didn't care for it that much. I like the characters to a certain extent. I certainly had problems with some of the characters in the film. But on the whole, I don't know. I guess it was entertaining enough, but not enough for me to really walk away liking it when it ended.
I agree with you. I guess it was entertaining enough. I walked away not just not liking it. I really didn't like it. I mean, I actively was frustrated by it. And I think that's because it's a film that just has a lot of opportunity in terms of the buddy action thing. We've talked about buddy cops. Now we're talking about a retired Secret Service member of the Secret Service and how he has been disgraced in the eyes of his colleagues and the law. Now he's a private eye, and he teams up with the most unlikely of partners. This disgraced football player. Both of these guys are just wallowing in disgrace, and I think it has such opportunity to be fun, and it ends up not really lending itself to having any exciting sort of center. I found myself just getting lost a lot, and therefore didn't care.
Yeah, I don't know if I got lost, but I certainly share you in the didn't care that much. That it is awfully convoluted as far as with the different bad guys. You've got the bad senator that is the one who brought Joe down and got him fired from his Secret Service job and basically led him to this life that he's now living. You've got him who's corrupt. You have the corrupt head of the football team in L.A., and you've got, of course, the bad guy, the evil torturing cohort who works for this guy, and I don't know. It's the way that these bad guys work together. I feel like there's, I don't know. I feel like they were trying to say a message at the end. How Bruce Willis, who is the last Boy Scout, how he ends up trying to help this senator who is corrupt and who he doesn't like, because he's trying to bring these other bad guys down and he's trying to save this guy's life. And, I guess I can see that, but I don't know. I just didn't feel like it worked for me.
Yeah, no, it really didn't. And this is one of the interesting things, because sometimes we try to sort of, I don't know, read the tea leaves and figure out if this feels like a film where there were too many chefs in the proverbial kitchen. But this film in particular, we've got people who are on the record that say there were too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah, this was Joel Silver producing again, and Bruce Willis and Shane Black, and then of course Tony Scott directing it. And I guess Shane Black not so much, but these other people all certainly got involved trying to make the film their way. And it seemed to become a power play between Bruce Willis and Joel Silver as far as what they wanted the movie to be. I don't know if I really heard specifically as to who wanted what in the film or why, but what I did hear was that Tony Scott, they basically, he was kind of forced into directing some of the stuff that he didn't want to direct or get fired. And Willis and Silver really kind of held the reins on how they wanted the movie to get made, which is just, it's a terrible way to have to make a movie. And I think when that is happening, you have just a lot of arguments and disagreements on set, and people get confused as to what is the story that we're actually making here. It got to a point where when the film was edited, nobody could tell what was going on in it, and they had to bring on Stuart Baird to kind of re-edit it to try to figure out what the heck this story was. Michael Kamen hated the movie when he was brought on to do the music, and he only agreed to stay on and do it because he had friendships with Bruce Willis and Joel Silver, although I don't think he ever worked with Joel Silver again after this either. And Bruce Willis refused to work with Joel Silver after this. It was a mess of a movie, and Joel Silver says it's one of the 3 worst experiences in his life. Tony Scott said the script was better than the film that he ended up making. I don't think people who were involved liked it. And Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans hated each other. It just feels like people couldn't figure out what the story was that they were wanting to tell here.
That's very much what it felt like. But you bring up that this was as a Shane Black script. He was paid a lot of money for this film, and that it was a better script than the movie that ultimately came from it. What was your sense of reading through the script?
Well, you say that it was he was paid a lot. Yes, at the time when this came out, he was paid $1.75 million to write this, or they bought this script. It was written as a spec. Paid $1.75 million for it, which at the time was the highest a screenwriter had ever been paid for a script, until that was broken 67 days later when Joe Esterhaus got paid twice that for Basic Instinct. So apparently, once you break that wall, it comes quick.
Yeah, it comes crumbling down
to get to the next. Right, exactly. But yeah, so I did read the script. It's odd. There's actually a lot of stuff in the script that is just still terrible. And some of the stuff, I don't know if it was just Shane Black just experimenting a little bit more and just trying to play around with some of these characterizations, but some of the stuff that he wrote really just, for me, doesn't work at all. Bruce Willis telling the yo mama jokes to get out of the pickles that he gets himself into a couple of times, they're still in the script, and that's just terrible stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the action scenes and some of the setups are in there still, and they're pretty good. The script actually veers off into almost even more confusing territory as we draw toward the third act, when all of a sudden it turns out that the senator's son, who is the person that Bruce Willis had messed up, and everybody thinks that he's kind of a vegetable. He turns out to be alive, and he's the one behind all of this. The senator ends up getting killed, and the senator's son is tied into to Marcone and this whole illegal gambling thing. And that kind of becomes another weird angle that we have in the script that I thought was weird. They end up taking a trip to Catalina, and the whole confrontation to get the briefcases, that all actually happens on boats. There's a lot of stuff happening on boats, and that actually made me wonder if some of the changes in the script were made for financial reasons or what, or if it was just because these guys really wanted to have a big showdown at a football game, which was not in the script. There's also a much darker angle in the script where Milo actually directs snuff films, and we see him directing a snuff film early, or when we first meet him, and then he actually kidnaps Joe's wife and actually is holding her hostage, ready to kind of put her into a snuff film, and Joe actually has to rescue her with Jimmy's help. It's a darker film. There is some more interesting stuff between Joe and Jimmy that gives us a better sense of some of the stuff as far as who these characters are. And that really, I liked the sense of the darker place that these two were in. They really felt bottom of the barrel, and they were both struggling to get out. Damon Wayans, I don't think, really brought it as far as conveying that kind of level of despair. I mean, he's got a drug problem and all that, but I didn't buy that he was like at the bottom of the barrel. You know, he still felt like a rich football guy. He's going to all the parties and everything. He didn't feel bottom of the barrel like Bruce Willis feels bottom of the barrel in this film.
Yeah, no, he was a fairly significant shortcoming in this film, and that's really too bad.
Well, the weird thing about this film is, I mean, he feels like, I mean, he's a comedian, really, and things like Major Payne and Bulletproof and even Blank Man, those sorts of films feel like they might fit his personality a little more. And doing something like this, yes, there is that comedy element and everything. And this kind of is still some of that struggle I have in these scripts that Shane Black has written that we've talked about so far, is I feel like there's a weird disparity between kind of the darker tones in the script and the comedy, the light comedy buddy, partner sort of story that's going on in them. And I think this film and script struggle a little bit trying to find the balance between the comedy and the darker tones. Blank Man, as silly as a film as it was, I mean, that seemed to fit him really well. And I would almost say that that's a little bit of a guilty pleasure for me, although I'd have to watch it again to confirm that. I do find it interesting that Damon Wayans was actually considered for the role of the Riddler in Batman Forever. Considering the tone of that film, I think that he could have kind of carried that, maybe not as well as Jim Carrey did, but I do think that he had some of that sort of comedic sensibilities that would have worked in that version of the Batman film.
I see what you mean by Blank Man, and I don't want to overthink that film, but I think part of what makes Damon Wayans work comedically in that film is David Alan Grier. Yeah,
I think the pairing of those guys works really well.
Yes, it does. So anyhow, that's Damon Wayans is a shortcoming here, and this is a Bruce Willis movie, and in terms of Bruce Willis playing a down and out detective, you get what's written on the tin. He's good. I enjoy watching him. I enjoy watching him even in a bad script or a script that has been chopped up to pieces. I still enjoy him from the moment he throws the dead squirrel out of the car window in the opening scene when those kids put it on him. I like Bruce Willis.
He's great, and he's so good when it comes time to that kind of self-loathing. I mean, when we meet him, he sits up and looks in the rearview mirror at himself, and he's just like, nobody likes you. Everybody hates you. You're going to lose. It's like, that's great. And that is like a moment where Shane Black's writing, I think, really shines. You get this fantastic just little twinkle of this brilliant characterization of this person and just kind of this bad place they're in. And it gives us a great sense of what our character arc is going to be for him. I love it.
It feels very much like the guy I grew up with as my action star, Obviously, I like him so much in Fifth Element. I know you're not as huge a fan as I am, but I'd even like him in Armageddon.
That movie has its place. I haven't seen it in a while, but I do remember enjoying it well enough. For what it was, I thought it was fun.
How about this? I even liked him in G.I. Joe Retaliation. What do you think?
I didn't see that one. It's funny though.
So back to the script just real quick before we move too far beyond it. Last week we talked so much about how Shane Black actually writes his scripts, the language he uses in the scripts, and how his flamboyance in constructing his script comes across on the page. Did you find that carries through in this script?
Yeah, I definitely. What people call Shane Blackisms are just loud and proud all through the script. I mean, he definitely wears his style on his sleeve, and I think that's one of the things that makes him just so much stinking fun to read. Just a couple examples. This is interior, dingy dressing room, night. Corey and Jimmy are engaged in very hot sex. This is not a love scene. This is a sex scene. sigh. I'm not even going to attempt to write this quote-unquote steamy scene here for several good reasons. A, the things that I find steamy are none of your damn business, Jack. In addition to which, B, the two actors involved will no doubt have wonderful, highly athletic ideas which manage to elude most fat-assed writers anyhow. C, my mother reads this, so there. P.S. I think we lost her back at the jacuzzi scene. Suffice to say, they fogged the screen. So there's a good example of him just having a little bit of fun with his script. And then here's a nice quick little nod to the reader, which is another reason I think people like to think about his scripts, because he's acknowledging the people who are reading these things. Remember Jimmy's friend, Henry, who we met briefly near the opening of the film? Of course you do. You're a highly paid reader or development person.
The only thing that would have made that better is had it been in all caps. Like it had been like a form. Highly paid reader or development person.
Right, exactly. So yeah, he clearly has fun, and it makes the scripts just really fun to read. And you can see why at the time when Joel Silver and people from the studios were reading these scripts that he was writing, that they were interested in paying a lot of money for them, because he just makes them so stinking fun. Not just to read, but just they really get you involved. They move you through the story really well, and you've got great characters, great interactions, and I think he knows how to write a script. So, I mean, kudos to him for doing a great job, and I can see why at the time people go, yes, this script is worth, that much money.
Yeah, it's too bad it came together in such a kludgy way. We do get a sense, though, of a much clearer sense of what it means when Black puts his thematic stamp on a story, right? I mean, he really loves these stories of buddies, of the fact that, at the end of the film, when we really have no heroes left, it's the fact that those guys are the guys who are saying there are no heroes left, that they were the heroes, in fact, in the film. It's the ironic turn of heroism. The fact that, it's the darkest, when we go to our darkest sort of human place, our darkest human failings, that we're able to find our true sort of inner hero. I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I think it makes Black an ironically optimistic writer when he writes these darker stories. Am I alone?
No, I think that sounds just right. I mean, oddly enough, in both Lethal Weapon and this script, some of the characters talk about the lack of heroes in the world, and then you do have these kind of these characters who end up becoming the heroes. And I think that is kind of a vibe that he pulled from kind of all the hard-boiled detective novels that he was such a fan of when he was younger, and, Mickey Spillane and Matt Helm and all that sort of stuff. You really get a sense of that world that these guys lived in, and this sense of, people that noirish world always feels like there's no heroes. However, these detectives kind of come through as heroes, and I like that he kind of sticks with that. And I really do like that element of the script where it's titled The Last Boy Scout, and you get this sense of Bruce Willis's character, Joe, as this kind of character who really is trying to stand for an ideal. I mean, he did, take a bullet for the president. He was defending this woman against this corrupt senator. There's a lot of stuff that gives him this sense of being this last Boy Scout that works really well. And being a character called the Last Boy Scout who starts where he starts, I think is a really interesting way to write a story.
What do you think of the criticism of that really gained kind of a fever pitch in this film, looking back on it, of just the straight up misogyny, that it's not a good film for women?
No, it's not. And I mean, that's something that you could say in a number of his scripts, the misogynism, the homophobia. It really rings pretty loud, and especially in today's eyes. I don't know. I struggle with just the way that the women are treated throughout the script, and it's frustrating that they're either cheating on their spouses, or they are addicted to drugs, or they are whores. That seems to kind of be what happens here, right? And then they get killed if they're wonderful and sweet. Even though Corey is a stripper, she says she's not a prostitute; she's just a stripper. She ends up getting killed. She's kind of the one who's and.
The proverbial heart of gold.
Yeah, I think it's very true. And in this particular film, that it's just horrible how the women are treated. Even the child, the 13-year-old daughter she's just a foul-mouthed little monster. And yes, she does end up loving her daddy, and there are reasons why Joe's wife is cheating. All of this sort of stuff tie into the story, but I feel like it's frustrating to see them all in a place like this in this film.
I agree. It was tough to watch, and it felt really dated. And in fact, when you talk about the daughter, she was, for most of the film, she's really foul-mouthed and horrible, but ends up being a character of some sort of transformation that is otherwise lost on just about every other female character in the film. So, yay, I guess.
Yeah, right.
It seems a little bit superficial by the time you actually get there, but not quite as redemptive as you want it to be. A little bit empty.
Yeah, Roger Ebert, he gave this film 3 out of 4 stars. He said it was a superb example of what it is: a glossy, skillful, cynical, smart, utterly corrupt, and vilely misogynistic action thriller, which I feel like it's a weird way to kind of describe it, almost like it's okay to be this misogynistic because it's fitting the mold, and I don't know. It was a weird thing to say, I thought.
I do, and I've been thinking about, sort of reflecting on his comment there, because it feels like it shouldn't be a compliment. It really feels like it's the most beautiful way to write a negative review, and to give it 3 stars after that seemed a little bit disingenuous. But I'm all about stories that push cultural norms in negative ways. I am all about those things. Like I can get invested in those stories. The challenge that I have here is ultimately what ended up on screen wasn't any fun in that regard. Like, there was nothing redeeming about putting those the female characters in those positions. There was nothing interesting about in the story that actually caused me to care beyond, wow, this movie was made by guys who just were not aware at that point, right? There are plenty of films that actually push those boundaries in a way that makes you think and gives you a lot to talk about. And in this film, none of it really served the story for me.
I'm right there with you.
Tony Scott.
Yes, R.I.P. Tony Scott.
Yeah.
Like we already talked about how much not fun he had making this. I thought it was funny that he actually parodied Joel Silver with the coke snorting and dealing movie producer in True Romance. And I think that says a lot about his opinion of Joel. It felt like a Tony Scott film. I guess I don't have a whole lot to say, but I don't think he had fun making this. I don't think he liked what the result was, but it does feel very Tony Scott. At the same time, it definitely has kind of his action stamp, I thought.
Do you have a favorite Tony Scott film?
It might be True Romance. I'd have to look at my flick chart to see, but I would say I'm blanking on them all of a sudden, but it's probably True Romance.
They start once you start the list, right? The last film he made before he died as a director was Unstoppable, but Taking a Pelham 1 through 1, 2, 3, Deja Vu, Domino, Man on Fire, Spy Game. That's the one for me, I think. But Enemy of the State was a big one for him. The Fan, Crimson Tide, True Romance, Last Boy Scout, obviously, Days of Thunder, Beverly Hills Cop 2. Top Gun?
Mine would be either Crimson Tide or True Romance. I think those two are pretty high up there.
Spy Game isn't up there for you? Redford and Pitt?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I need to watch that one again.
I feel like we should take a break. So you can go watch it right now.
Let's go watch it. Well, I'm doing my Robert Redford series, which I'll get to it.
You'll
eventually.
Get to it. Right.
It's quite a filmography, so I'm still back in the 60s.
I
haven't even gotten to Butch Cassidy yet.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so there's Tony Scott. Did not get along with anybody, and really, it feels very much like a railroaded film particularly when you talk about the challenges that he had in working with Silver and Willis. So Bruce Willis also didn't like working with Silver or Wayans. Which to me sounds really like he was burying himself in the part. Like he just doesn't like anybody. And I feel like that's his reputation at this point. He just doesn't really like anybody.
No, it really comes across. I don't know. there's an interesting element to the relationship with him and his wife, and the fact that he's distant and the fact that she's cheating because he's distant. I like that element of the story. I just feel like it just wasn't handled in a caring way for almost for anybody, but mostly for her. That being said, I do at least appreciate that there was more here and that there was a family element. I thought that was it was nice to see that he wasn't just. So often you got this this kind of rundown detective, and it's just kind of a single guy. So I liked that at least he had a family.
And Damon Wayans, we talked about the fact that he was about kind of where he was in his career already, but and that he also did not really like working with Bruce Willis. But you contend that you say he was horribly miscast. ... Or was he? I've been waiting with bated breath.
I think he was miscast.
Oh,
There was a review that I read where somebody was charging that this film was really kind of secretly almost a I don't want to say a spoof, but just something that was speaking to what so many other people were doing in action films. This was kind of a response, and that his character didn't work, but at the same time, that was almost part of its charm. And I kind of just completely disagreed with that. I just thought it was interesting that there are people. I mean, this film does have its legion of fans. There are definite Tony Scott fans and just fans of this film who really click with what is going on here. And I think kudos to them for really enjoying it and enjoying Wayans and everything. I just don't think it worked.
I feel like this is a film that screams Wayans taking the role seriously. And the fact that it doesn't communicate well is not a sign that it's a spoof. It's a sign of a miscast.
I agree.
There are some, as a Tony Scott thing, I've got the movie running here in the background, and he does some just beautiful Tony Scott silhouettes, and he does some great action jumps, anywhere Milo comes in and is, the initial kidnappings, and he's just such a, superficially funny character. And maybe he's funny because of the context of a film I genuinely don't like very much. But it feels like if you don't watch it with sound, it's kind of a pretty movie.
Yeah, but that's kind of, I guess, these directors who kind of came from the commercials and music videos were known for creating pretty pictures. And Tony Scott certainly could create those iconic images. I mean, look at what some of the images are from Top Gun and some of those films leading up to this one. He certainly knew how to create the images, and this film is full of them. I mean, there's a lot of great images here, and yes, if you're just looking at it for the picture, then there are pretty pictures in the film.
That should be a log line, right? I mean, the last Boy Scout, turn it down. way down. You liked Taylor Negron, right?
I do. I think that Milo is actually a really interesting bad guy. I think that that's something that Shane Black has done pretty well in this and Lethal Weapon as far as these kind of henchmen. I enjoyed the previous one, and I enjoy this one. I think that Milo is just interestingly written. I like the way that he kind of comes across as almost aloof, almost gay. You can't quite put your finger on him. He almost has this air about him where he's just kind of a part of separated from the violence and everything that he's committing. And I think that's really interesting. And I really like Taylor Negron in the film as this character. I don't know. I get a kick out of watching him. And Milo is just, I think he's just a really interesting character. And I think that he would have made a much more interesting villain throughout the film rather than Noble Willingham as Marcone, or even as, Senator Baynard, Chelsea Ross.
I agree. And I could not help but think about Javier Bardem. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Because his portrayal of Silva in the Bond franchise opposite Daniel Craig, I found really interesting. And it was that, adding those sort of, he is a really bad guy with a lot of personal baggage. And I thought he played it really, really well. And it's one of those things, like, that's one of the bits of opportunity that I feel was missed in The Last Boy Scout, was they had an actor who could pull it off, and this raw material of this potentially big bad guy who is complex and interesting. And I think if it just didn't capitalize it in the end of the film, and they ended up making him a dumb sniper. Like that's the just not a very threatening way to compel fear.
Yeah, and in both cases, he's brought into the story late, both in the script and in the film. I mean, he comes in the script on page 72. Wow. Like halfway through the film before he actually is introduced. But although it is introduced shooting a snuff film, so I mean, it's a very interesting way to introduce this character. And that was one of my problems here. Is I as much as I love Taylor Negron in the film as Milo, yeah, I did feel like there should have been more of him and more throughout the film. It's funny that you brought up Silva, because when you said Javier Bardem, I instantly went to No Country for Old Men.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Vaguely uncertain, sort of malevolent character.
Right. You kind of get this, just the speech patterns. There's something about him that just feels off.
Yeah,
but that's what I liked.
But you remember that, as Silva, when he looks over and says, "Look at you, barely held together with your, liquor and pills." Like that, just the way he says it and then pulls his jaw out. That's what I wanted. I wanted The Last Boy Scout with Silva as the bad guy. That would have been a good mashup. Somebody recut it.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
What'd you think of Halle Berry in this? This was one of the 3 films that she made in her first year of being an actress.
It was better than Catwoman.
I didn't see Catwoman. I can't say. I enjoy Halle Berry. She's just, I think she's a joy to watch. And even when her roles are not enough, I thought that she did a great job here.
Yeah, I think she did too. It obviously, she was going to be the person who comes out of this film and does something else more interesting. Just looking at the way she interacts with other humans on screen. Yes.
Interestingly, though, also Eddie Griffin and Morris Chestnut both pop up in here. And James Gandolfini, all as kind of like bit characters. So it's nice to see that this film actually did spur on some other actors.
And Andy, I am so excited that we have, I think this is 2 films in a row that we get to go to the Internet Movie Firearms Database.
Oh, yes, we do. Yeah, this film, like its predecessor, has a lot of weapons in it. In fact, this one has more. This film has 22 different varieties of revolvers, pistols, submachine guns, rifles, carbines, and shotguns, as opposed to 21 in Lethal Weapon.
This is fun. Do you have a favorite, or is there one that you've already put an order in for? Or
no, a lot of great things. The funny thing that I thought was brought up as a little point of trivia on the firearms database website was the fact that the explosion when Marcone opens the briefcase and blows up, that was actually later reused, the explosion effect, by John McTiernan when he made The Last Action Hero a few years later, which was also co-written by Shane Black. So,
well, how'd it do with in awards season?
Well, it wasn't one that was getting any Oscar nominations. However, it did find itself getting 2 MTV Movie Award nominations, and everybody knows how important those are in the film community.
And what, pray tell, Andy, what, pray tell, did they win at the MTV Movie Awards?
Nothing, although it did get nominated for Best Action Sequence for its helicopter blade sequence, which we didn't talk about, but it's an awfully gory finale for Milo.
Yes, that was splashy.
It was very splashy, but that actually lost to the LA freeway scene in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which I think is
rightfully
probably a fair assessment. And then it also was nominated for Best On-Screen Duo, which is really funny considering Willis and Wayans hated each other. And I guess it makes sense they lost to Dana Carvey and Mike Myers in Wayne's World.
Yes, again, appropriately so. I have to say, though, I can't believe we didn't talk about the one thing that you've been leading up to every week, as we've talked about doing this film, which is the football opener.
Yes.
That's the one thing you remembered about the film.
Yeah, I remembered the opener, and then I remember Bruce Willis doing a jig, and that was pretty much all I remembered. The opener of this film, in the script and in the film, I think is just a fantastic way to just get you into the action. You really have no sense as to what's going on or why, but it is just an intense and over-the-top football game in the most intense rainstorm I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like Noah. Like somebody call Noah. There is so much rain that it's hard to believe that any activity is going on. But you got to describe the football thing and why it is memorable to you.
Well, it's memorable because as this game gets or as the game continues, this player, and as we later find out, he's knee deep in the world of gambling, of football gambling, and he has been mandated to have to run a certain number of yards in order to, to make certain gambling deals. People make money from him running 150 yards.
You're big,
football,
big,
blah,
big
blah,
into
blah.
football, sports ball, football. Ball, run the ball, pass the ball.
He has to do some sportsing, and then more sportsing things have to happen. And so, in order for those sportsing things to happen, though, as he catches the ball from the quarterback who throws in the ball, he grabs the ball and he's running down the field toward the end, and he pulls out a gun and starts taking out the players who are coming at him, just so that he can make it to the goal, the 150 yards that he is supposed to run in this game, and to achieve the goal for these gamblers before he blows his brains out.
What they don't show you is whether or not all those bets got paid.
That's right. Do they still count?
Do they still count?
I wonder.
I mean, he ran the yardage.
Right.
And then, of course, the end, and I'm surprised this didn't get nominated for any sort of MTV movie award, is just the ramping up the level of patriotism to 11 with the horse. We cut to a horse. We foreshadow the horse. Of course, the horse will be ridden, and the horse is ridden by the redeemed ex-quarterback carrying a football, saving the day by throwing the football impossibly far into the stands to hit the senator, thus knocking him out of the way of the sniper's bullet, and to mad cheers. It is an incredibly patriotic win for Damon Wayans. What? I had chills.
Yes.
Shut up.
Yes. Beautiful.
So anyhow, are you ready to option a sequel, or is that something that your company does?
The second to last Boy Scout.
But wait, there's one more. Anything else we need to talk about, Andy? How did it do?
This film did okay. It really, considering it was the script was sold for as much as it was, I think that everybody felt it was rather underperforming, although it still made its money back. It opened December 13th, 1991. It cost $29 million to make. I couldn't find any prints and advertising, which I think would affect kind of the outcome here, because I almost feel like that would have pushed it into the negative maybe. Domestically, it made $59.5 million. Couldn't find any international numbers, so a lot of stuff's missing on this one. But with those numbers, it ends up at an adjusted profit per finished minute of about just under $500,000. So I'm curious to see how the rest of those numbers would have played in and to see if it would have ended up in the red.
Yeah, because it feels a little bit artificial, but where does that put it? What does that put it between on our list?
It's number 98, right between Escape from New York and The Shining.
Well, I think we should probably go ahead and rank it and just see what's going to happen here.
Let's do it.
All right. Head over to Flickchart, everybody. Flickchart.com. Sign in to your account and do a search for Last Boy Scout. I'll bet it's even in the database there. I'll bet you can find it. And once you do, you know the drill. We're going to rank it. Filmo a filmo. The Last Boy Scout versus...
Friday night is a great night for football with The Last Boy Scout. We're back to the Oh Brother block, buddy. The Last Boy Scout or Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Don't even need to finish that sentence, Andy.
Absolutely not. Oh Brother.
Yeah.
The Last Boy Scout or Taxi Driver. I am definitely going Taxi Driver
I'm
here.
going Taxi Driver.
Next up, Pete, one of your favorites, The Last Boy Scout or The Hudsucker Proxy?
Hudsucker. I know you are too.
I actually am. I didn't care for that movie that much, but I would definitely watch it.
No, let's be clear. This movie has a place on our list. I have an agenda with every ranking.
Oh dear. The Last Boy Scout or Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
I think I'm Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh boy.
I would watch that movie first.
I probably would too, but
I know
no,
you
but
would.
here's the thing. Despite The Last Boy Scout's problems, I think it does have some interesting elements, some interesting characters, and it's got the best opening. Maybe not the best opening ever, but it has such a thrilling opening. I'm going to give it The Last Boy Scout just for that opening, because that is an amazing, amazing opening.
I'm going to take you to the mat on this one because I don't think we've had enough conflict tonight.
Well, let's do it. Are you ready? One, two, three.
Paper.
Rock. Oh.
Suck it.
Look at that. Okay. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull takes it then. The Last Boy Scout or The Edge? I will do The Edge.
I will do The Edge.
The Last Boy Scout, Pete, or Rush? I will do Last Boy Scout.
I will do Last Boy Scout. Wow, we haven't had to rank something against Rush in forever.
Probably the women was...
Yeah, right.
So maybe not forever. The Last Boy Scout or Children of the Corn? I will do The Last Boy Scout.
Last Boy Scout.
That was a tough
Those
one.
are some bad movies.
Yeah, Stephen King does have some that just don't work so well. Well, and that's it. Last Boy Scout, number 231.
Didn't break 230.
I feel like it should be at least a little bit higher than that.
Yeah, that's where you're wrong, Andy. That's where you are objectively wrong.
Yeah, right. Oh, well.
Yeah, no, that was good. I don't even know what to say about that movie. I'm really surprised at just how much I didn't like it, given how much I have fun with Black's writing.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of fun Black witticisms in here. I just feel like not enough of it made it to the screen. That's too bad. So what does this do for your star ranking?
I give it 2 stars. It isn't the worst thing that I've seen, but it really is riddled with issues.
Yeah, I'm a 1 star on this one. It's not one I'm going to be putting on again. So what does that do for us? 1.5?
Yep.
All right. That's it. And so now, hopefully, we're going up from here, right? Where do we go next in our Shane Black series?
The next one in the series is one that I really, really enjoy. It's The Long Kiss Goodnight with Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson. And that is just nothing but fun. I really am looking forward to talking about that one next week.
And what's our special next week? What else do we have going on? So that's next week. That's on the regular show. Before that,
we have our next shorts, our next Steve Sarmento 3 of a Kind.
Oh, geez, I better get to editing. That's the truth. So, assuming I actually do my part, yes, you're going to hear Steve Sarmento on Tuesday and then Long Kiss Goodnight next week. And, boy, clearly, I got to go to bed.
All right. Well, I've got to go dance a jig.
I think I'll go first because I have the shorter one. What do you think about that?
I think that sounds
a good enough reason. This film has a lot of 5-star reviews on Amazon. Did that surprise you?
I don't think so, because like I said earlier, I know that this has developed a cult following. There are definitely the Tony Scott fans who really, really love this film. And I guess they are just very vocal on Amazon.
Well, there's a real lesson here, kids, is that some cults can be dangerous. And I think fans of The Last Boy Scout may be that cult. Too judgy? #judgmental place.
#yes.
I am I'm writing to you with a response from a customer from November 29th, 1999. who says this is one of the worst films of all time.
Ouch.
On format VHS tape. I cannot believe anyone can watch this movie without laughing at the utter stupidity being displayed on screen, from the disgusting advertisements of Marlboros to a script that is beyond description. This movie had no redeeming qualities except for Miss Barry, who is killed during the first 30 minutes. Awful, disgusting, and stupid movie from a customer. What about you?
Well, I was going to read a 1 star. But I feel guilty reading just 2 1-stars for a movie that we already hated so much.
So you're changing it up now that I've read a 1-star? You're making me the guy who piles on?
I guess so.
Andy.
I'm going to do a 5-star. Because there's a lot of them.
I am betrayed. Betrayed, I tell you.
That's right. There, it's interesting to look at these people's 5 stars. They really, really love it. I don't know. I mean,
go ahead, you big dumb cheater.
All right, I am a big dumb cheater. 5-star by a customer. This is a very. I worry about this. A customer.
A customer has some problems.
Schizophrenia. Best action movie ever made. I don't know what Jeff Shannon is smoking. I'm not sure who he's referring to here, but his quote review, it was more like slander, of The Last Boy Scout was totally wrong-headed and a little bizarre. Where does this so-called hatred of women come in? If anything, the film shows that men can be pretty rotten to women and that they stick around because of loyalty or love.
What?
The movie is high-energy action at its best, and it's a highlight in the now lowbrow genre of buddy movies. Shane Black got his $2 million for this script because it's filled with hilarious, quote-worthy dialogue. Anyone who says they haven't at least stolen one line of dialogue from this movie is a liar. Bruce is at his grumpy, self-hating peak here as Joe Hollenbeck, and Damon Wayans gives possibly the only good performance of his career. Take a seat, pop in this DVD, and have a ball, because that's what this is, a good time. If you're looking like Shannon was for something that will change the world or give you a new view of yourself, look elsewhere. This is entertainment, pure and simple. And good entertainment is hard to come by. Wow.
I don't even know what to say to that. Oh, I do. You know what else has a lot of 5 stars? Tango and Cash.
You know why you gave this a 1 star and you are so low on it, Pete? Because they make fun of Prince.
I thought we've been over this, Andy. It's always too soon. Thanks for nothing, Amazon.
Well, if it's a host infusion, it's like a virus, Pete.
And
right?
I think the jury's out. It's possible that we're spreading hate and evil, vile villainy. Filth.
Oh, man. The TNR vacation.
So you're not big on the transfusion? No.
The TNR.
I take it by the fact that you're continuing to steamroll over my ideas.
That's right. The TNR movie club.
Who's in the club? It's you and me. We were always in the club.
I know, but it's like a book club where we're going on vacation and we swap movies with each other. You watch this while you're on vacation. I'll watch yours. It makes sense. All right. The TNR. How about extravaganza? Let's get extravaganza in there. String. Let's get string into it.
Film extravaganza. Movie extravaganza. Exfilmaganza. It's a filmgasm.
Filmgasm.
The TNR moviegasm.
Viral moviegasm.
It's the viral moviegasm. Andy, I don't know if you can tell, but our ideas are getting worse.
TNR. We go just back to the movie exchange, the movie challenge.
Yeah, I like movie challenge. Why didn't we think of that?
Fuck. TNR, what the hell is the stupid thing called challenge? Or the vacation?
It's a suggestion. It's well, okay. Let me see if I can rationalize challenge again, though. It is kind of a challenge because we're challenging the other person to come up with a film in this genre.
I'm not saying we can't rationalize challenge.
Because we can rationalize challenge.
We can rationalize it every day of the week. But do we want? I guess the question is, do we care if we have the hashtag Guess the Movie challenge, and here we are doing this other challenge?
Well, we're not putting a hashtag in front of it.
That's true.
Yeah, right. Maybe challenges. We need another challenge.
Let's call it the TNR Vacation Challenge.
Okay, I like that.
Oh, hell.
Okay, we need to start the show. It is hard to believe we have been having in-depth conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you, and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
Season 5 had some great adaptations, like our Meryl Streep Oscar-nominated performances series. We covered adaptations like Kramer vs. Kramer, Sophie's Choice, and The French Lieutenant's Woman.
It's a real Sophie's Choice between those books. You see what I did there?
Yeah. And I don't think it's quite at the level of a real Sophie's Choice.
We also did Snowpiercer for our Bong Joon-ho series, adapted from the French graphic novel Le Transpersonnage. Man, I love that movie.
We had our two-part 1939 series that included adaptations like Gone with the Wind, Ninotchka, The Women, and The Hound of the Baskervilles.
A number of those 1939 movies, like Goodbye, Mr. Chips, also tied into our recent 1940 Academy Award Best Picture nominee series.
Our Naughty Children horror series had creepy adaptations like The Bad Seed, Village of the Damned, The Innocents, and Children of the Corn.
For our Hayao Miyazaki series, we talked about his take on Lupin III with The Castle of Cagliostro, plus his own The Wind Rises.
Some great listener choice picks too, Viridiana and The Great Escape.
And for our David Mamet Wright series, The Verdict, The Untouchables, and Glengarry Glen Ross.
Plus, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang from our Shane Black series, adapted from Brett Halliday's novel, Bodies Are Where You Find Them.
Dive into the sources for all of these at thenextreel.com/originals.
Every book you buy helps support the show. Check out thenextreel.com/originals today and find your next read.